Excuse me. Sorry, Alan.
It looks like it.
Who's- oh, 1, 2, 3.
Causeway from Citizens of the Water. Other, they had.
I don't.
What's that? Oh, no, there's one always have one.
In response to that one, that's gonna have the leak.
There's two now. Yeah, well, I'm glad.
Yeah. Just a way for
Did you
people to
write
get their East End.
Yeah, that's great.
To Casey?
Nope. Yeah. But that was on my horizon.
Yeah. Oh, there's Donna. Okay, see, so Donna.
Good morning.
Hey, Donna. Good morning. Hey, is that everyone now? Okay. Let me wake my tablet up real quick, sorry. Okay, I think we have everyone here now. So I'm going to call to order the Finance Economic Development Committee meeting on August 11th, 2025 at 7:32 a.m. You need to call the roll?
Barrow?
Yes.
Harris?
Yes.
Poffenberger?
Yes. So I have the agenda in front of me. There's just one addition I wanted to make to the end. The June report that just went out in our emails from Jennifer, I thought it might be nice if she kind of went over that with us a little, just as kind of part of the updates that she'll do sometimes. So just kind of go over that report that was out. I know we've done it in the past. And then our first item on the agenda is discussion of streetlight assessments and rates. Does anyone want to start that off?
Well, you had talked about pursuing Edison and some sit-downs with them.
Yeah, they have a sit-down on the 29th, I believe, right, of July?
We did.
And what came of that?
They're actually replacing 18 poles. They were, the poles that were on Marketplace, they thought that the wires had always been aerially. They're not. They have to go back and change those. Are temporary. They put they strung the electrical feeds to those poles from top of pole to top of pole. So much so that people thought we were actually doing catenary lights across the street. And Addison actually believed that's the way they were. And Matt Griggs was able to pull it up on Google Earth multiple years back, and they were never aerial. They're all buried, direct buried. They said that when I asked them what it would cost to put a new pole in, if we wanted new poles, not the replacement poles, because they cover that, but they said it would be $10,000 to buy the pole, $1,500 for the luminaire, which exceeds what we paid, even with the underground service. So that, I mean, that's here and there, but that's what was discussed with Victor Coleman. We also, the Public Utilities Commission got involved with this. They called me, 3 weeks ago, and are doing an investigation of the poles and what's happening. There's a number of poles that are still rusted. We asked them to, when they look at their poles, it's every 7 years, they say every 7 years they inspect the poles. But in the 5.5 years I've been here, 2 of the poles that fell, I reported back then to Victor. So I think they've taken notice, and they're going to try to fix the poles they've got, but they have made no commitment beyond that.
How does that intercede with what's before us as far as assessments for lights in the grand scheme of things? These are 18 new poles versus I forgot how many poles that we had that were in the city.
I'm not
that
sure
are-
it makes, yeah, there's a connection only because we had a plan that was for replacing poles.
Right.
Like, for instance, on Dussel, since Dussel is controlled by the state, just like we wanted less poles on the Anthony Wayne Trail, but we had to meet the concentric light circles when we did the light poles. We couldn't add Edison poles every so often, because once you touch those things and put additional poles in, you're about that. So if you wanted to add light on Dussel, you would have to add light that showed those concentric light circles touching. You can't have a light circle in a dark area, light circle, dark area.
Sure. So
That's, but that is separate.
I
Because
understand.
that money does either get specially assessed to the property owners abutting it, gets specially assessed generally, because that's a business area, they get charged more, or at some point, you're not lighting those areas. And Victor appeared to agree with that
Yep,
concept.
so this really has no impact on what we need to do in the city as far as replacing poles on a rotation basis or
Well, not to the extent you use this money to do lighting projects, which we've done in the past. I mean, there's the difference. Remember that, we have a number of lighting projects that, because of the dark sky concept, ordinance requires shorter poles, which we did for the Anthony Wayne Trail. But we're also seeing, even on our parking lots, our parking lot requirements, even their 18-foot poles in the new Myers parking lot because of the dark sky, instead of light pollution. So Edison doesn't have poles. I did ask him what kind of poles they have, heights that we could choose from, and he said, we don't do that anymore. They used to have decorative light poles they offered and so on, but the Edisons, the Consumers Energies of the world don't offer those anymore.
and we have access to keep ours all uniform.
Yeah, if you were to use the same poles you use on the trail, you would use
Good,
those same
okay,
poles. And
great. I think
and the
that's
poles
important.
that we provide, aside from the assessment, the poles that we provide would have a separate circuit, a plug in them for Christmas decorations, whatever.
Mhm.
They have the banner arms and everything, which Edison doesn't do anymore.
Thank you.
Yeah, another thing to remember, though, it's like when it comes to consistency, over the years, the styles are going to change. You're not going to be able to get those poles. So like one of the things that I've recommended to like Toledo as well is like a way you can keep consistency is just with the color. So,
Yes.
having all black poles, if you did do, updates, but, so I guess my goal with, recommending this back to finance is, I don't support the rate increase right now, even if it is minimal. And I don't support right now having pole replacement projects happening that takes Edison's poles and turns them into our poles. We just had that How to Power a City documentary the other day, and it reminded me, I saw it a few years back at Imagination Station, but it reminded me of one of their focus areas was Highland Park in Detroit, and it reminded me how they got their light poles taken away from them. They were repossessed by the city because they owed so much, and then that neighborhood completely went dark, which caused issues with crime and things like that. But they started putting their own poles back in, and they did that through solar poles. So I guess, I see it as if we did no rate increase this year, we do this annually. We do no rate increase this year. We halt any sort of replacement plans that we're taking over responsibility from Toledo Edison, and we take that time to have more talks with Toledo Edison. I know I didn't even put a request out there to other communities, and I had one person already that was more than happy to meet with Toledo Edison with us and try to create some kind of numbers on our side to have conversations with them about their lack of responsiveness. I feel like we had some clarifications on how to properly go through their process to get polls taken care of. As ridiculous as some may think it sounds, I feel like when you're a company that big, those processes become really important. So, you know, they don't want calls coming in from every direction. They want it all to, you know, be inputted in one, you know, way, through that process that they have, which Toledo has something similar with their 311 or whatever, or Engage Toledo. You put a ticket in, it gets a ticket number, then it's a lot easier to keep track of, and things like that. So I guess my thought was, after watching that film, it's like, if we're gonna spend the money on the poles, why wouldn't we then look into spending money on poles that are solar powered and could save us on actually lighting the poles? So my request is just to take time, like, pause a minute, don't raise rates this year, don't move forward with the engine, replacing new poles, replacing the poles with, you know, poles that we're then going to be in charge of, and just take some more time to do some of the things that, you know, have been brought up in the past couple months since we've been doing these readings. So that's my recommendation. Removing I think it was a 4% increase, and taking a pause on light pole replacement plans, and then move forward with contacting communities surrounding us, because I know the communities surrounding us also have this problem, and team up with them and get a meeting with, I don't know if we all have the same rep or not, but then get a meeting with you know, representatives from the communities with Toledo Edison, and express our concerns again, just so they know, you know, we're serious about this, and we all are, because I think it'll benefit everyone. And then, you know, look into the solar ones. It might seem ridiculous, and it might not work at all. I sent a note to Solidarity, which is the group that are doing the polls up in Highland Park. I've not heard back from them. I think they have a phone number too, so I was gonna call as well. But those are my thoughts and suggestions and recommendations, so.
Well, I have a question then. What do we do in the interim where we have poles that are very aged, and they're failing, and they're coming down, and they're rotting, and they're falling?
Then we take the proper steps that Toledo Edison has told us to take
As
through
it
the ticketing
happens.
system.
But I'd rather be proactive, and poles that are on the borderline of, well, gosh, it looks okay, it doesn't look okay. We'll see what happens. I don't think there's a way to be responsible.
Well, I think that's different than, let's take this whole area of town and replace all of them.
Expectancy of them. Anything solar has a life expectancy, and then it's over, as we know with most everything.
Yes, most everything.
Okay.
But that's why we would take time to research it. But I am not at all saying we need to go buy solar poles right now. I don't know enough about them to make any sort of real solid recommendation. I'm just saying, if we did look into something like that, if we replaced poles with something like that, those poles could potentially pay for the electricity that's being used through the solar power. You're not taking off the grid, so we're not paying, excuse me, for that pole off the grid. And then the other thing that kind of reminded me, I've got a little video about it I included in my newsletter today, and they also, we got little hotspots from them, like Wi-Fi hotspots for the neighborhood that can use. And I don't know if that's just something that kind of comes with the pole that they got, but I know we have talked about in the past providing, you know, internet access around the community. So I see that as kind of like another benefit. But so that's my recommendation, I suppose. So, I mean, do we want to, Josh, do you have anything to say about it? Or?
I just think I want a little point of clarification. The purpose of the increase that was proposed, was that specifically for the idea that we're going to try to create or take over the whole poll program? Or was that done for some other general reason for financial?
So the proposed increase would generate about $30,000 annually. That is receipted into the streetlight fund and used to support operations and general maintenance and some replacement. It is not needed for operating costs. The operating costs are around $300,000 and some change. And we would generate, with no increase, about $765,000. With the increase, it'd be $795,000. And
So-
there is a healthy reserve balance right now that would give the city time to evaluate other options or a path moving forward.
So just want to make sure there's no negative financial impact if we don't do the increase?
No, not at all.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I guess the main thing, like, I realize it's a minimal increase, considering the overall cost, but it's just one less increase for everyone right now. To take a minute to talk about some of the things and kind of consider some other options and see if we can work with, what we've got with others in the area that I know are also having issues. I mean, this will be benefiting us, but also I think it would benefit other people in our community to have talks with them. They could get, maybe they will get better response from Toledo Edison as well. I just think it's worth looking into if it's not going to have a detrimental financial impact, and we can maybe hopefully create a better relationship for us and other communities, and then look into some other things.
Mrs. Chair?
Yes.
Then I would suggest that you split the motions, if you're going to do it, that you would say that the assessment would go forward without the increase, and then a second one would be to refer to the capital projects manager and the finance director to determine the cost differential between adding streetlight poles from First Energy and having them yourself, maybe,
Okay.
and then refer it back to you,
Okay.
so you have that.
And do I need to include the motion to do some of the actions, like meeting with Toledo Edison and other community members in the area, or, looking into the solar power poles in the process? If we're going to do a cost
do that anyway.
analysis, yeah.
We've done some, and I have done some investigation of the solar poles and site cut crossings and found it to be really cost prohibitive, because we never did the streetlights and site cut crossings. We waited because I wanted to put solar poles in.
Okay.
Try them out as a project, but it probably deserves some further study, which means I don't think you need to, referring it back to staff, I think needs to be a motion, but I don't think including Toledo and stuff in those discussions doesn't have to be part of them.
Okay.
I don't think.
Okay.
Would we have a kind of a timeline when we would revisit this?
Well, every year we have to do this. So what's starting in the summer of next year? We need to make sure we're keeping progress through, from now until this
Sure.
next thing starts. Because right now we did the 3 readings for the necessity of streetlights. So now we're getting into like the raising the rates and the assessment. So
Okay, I like Patrick's suggestion, and I'd like to be a part of that panel, or
Sure.
maybe to meet
Yeah,
with Edison. Thank you.
Yep.
So I would make that motion pertaining to the streetlight assessment study, I guess we would call it.
We're referring it to staff.
Referring it to staff and have it looking through the
For a
capital.
report.
Yeah, to check out the difference between Toledo Edison poles, our poles,
Right.
solar poles, all the above. Okay. I'd second that. Call the roll. Or I guess is there any other further discussion? No?
Barrow,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Uppenberger.
Yes. And then I would like to make a motion to remove the increase from, was it 017? And then I would assume then also the assessment one. So what number is that?
What?
Huh?
Wait, say that again.
We have increases on, like,
017,
remove the
2025.
rate increase. I don't know which one it's on.
2025.
Yeah, 017, 2025. So it would be all based on the 016, 2024 rates. So I'd like to make a motion to remove the rate increase, and get the ordinances updated to whatever needs to happen for the one for the assessment and the rates.
Okay,
The next two,
The total assessment.
the total assessment.
Okay.
Well,
so-
017, 2025 is the ordinance establishing the basis for allowing of assessments, allocation rather of assessments for cost of lighting the street in public ways. Jennifer, if we take this, if we
So we need,
vote against this, will this still allow us to operate how we are?
yeah, so we need to have everything into the auditor by the second Monday of September. So if council would approve the new total assessment amount, which will be 765-ish, because it was already proposed to council, maybe a first reading, I don't recall actually, or maybe second, that we'll need to update that.
Yeah, so, okay, so I'd like to make a motion to remove any sort of rate increase and update any of the ordinances we're currently voting on to reflect that.
Okay.
Does that work?
Yes, and if we can have that on the August 18th meeting, that would be great too.
Yes. And we'd be able to have those updates by the August 18th meeting?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So that's my motion.
I think we need to amend that a little bit. I think it needs to be recommend to council that we
Gotcha.
push this forward without any rate increases.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend to council to go forward without any rate increases and make the necessary adjustments to the ordinances we've been presented. Thank you, Josh.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Barrow,
Yes?
Paris,
Yes.
Puffelberger.
Yes. Okay. So then our next item on the agenda is discussion of the leak adjustment form. So we've had, I think, a couple recently residents that have had water leaks. And so I think one of the reasons why we're looking at creating some sort of form and some sort of process is, no, I don't think any residents have had a problem with the water, the water consumption, the water that they're using. That's pretty evident in the meter, what water kind of went through their system. But I think one of the things we're looking at is like whether it went into the sanitary sewer or not. So whether a credit is deserved on that end. So we just wanted some sort of process, available to residents to go through, like a clear kind of black and white form to fill out and process. And we were given some examples in an email from Oakwood, Ohio, Miamisburg, City of Lorraine, just like a few kind of examples in the area. And Jennifer, do you want to talk about kind of how you came up with this form that we've been given, kind of the whys?
Yeah, sure. So I did not reinvent the wheel here. I did look at other entities, and specifically other entities in Ohio, paying special attention to if it goes through the sanitary system, then there wouldn't be an adjustment. The difficulty is proving one way or the other and being conscious of staff time investigating that as well. So you'll see on the form, there's a cap to the credit. And there are different scenarios. If it's without a doubt, it did not go through the sanitary system, then the credit is in full up to 10,000 gallons, I believe, or 20,000. Yeah. For example, we had a resident, and we have tested this form. I provided it to our water supervisor to test it. I provided it to our utility billing supervisor also to test it and review it to see if there's anything that I was missing on it. And so we did work through a real example, and we did advise the resident that this was a test. But that particular resident, I don't remember all the details of it, but it was discharging into a ditch, essentially. So it wasn't being treated in the sanitary system. So there's a cap, there's a consistent measure to, or a process to review. There's a form for the resident to complete first, and then an internal review, and then a process for approving and recommending a credit. And this would be a sewer credit only. For example, if you have a running toilet, there's not a credit because it's going into the system to be treated. So we're expending money to treat that. Same thing with a leaking, kitchen sink, that sort of thing.
Okay, so this is creating a process where one did not exist before.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I was happy to see this come to fruition because this has been happening over the years, and people complain about it and
Yeah.
kick a tire, and it's like, oh, what do you do about it?
Yeah.
and it can be really impactful.
And there really are only a handful of situations every year that this
Right.
would apply to, because often we get complaints, a high reading, and it was like a running toilet. So that wouldn't apply, but this does give residents a path to request an adjustment for the reasons that we just talked about.
Patrick, do you have something to add?
I just had a question. What do you do when there's a water line break between the shut-off and the house on private property? 'Cause I've had people say, I want a credit for that. That may not go into the sanitary unless you have a clay lateral that it goes into, but how do you credit that?
It wouldn't be metered at that point, right? If it's between the
No,
curb and.
it would not
and
be
the leak.
metered.
Yeah. So we had that situation.
Because we don't have meter pits.
Right, we had that situation a couple years ago. I cannot.
We did.
Was it Scott Street? And I think we had to require the resident to repair that.
That was a very large bill. I think it was wasn't that an $11,000 water bill?
It was a big bill. But-
Yeah, so that would be an entirely different situation from a leak adjustment. So this is where it's
Okay.
running through the meter. So this would be something that our water department would identify as, water running through the system, unaccounted for water.
So with that, then that's something you can't even get an alert
No.
from, yeah, Aquahawk about, right?
Right. I think it would probably be more of a visual if the front yard was saturated.
Yeah.
A little more investigation there, but it would not apply to this leak adjustment form.
Is that
It
something
might
that we,
help to make it clear is all.
yeah, is that something that we should look at and be conscious of it
Just
to
a
come back and
suggestion to make it
visit?
clear that that's not included.
Yeah.
No, I understand that, but should we, at this point, what's in front of us, we talk about this leak adjustment eligibility, but should we circle around maybe with the staff or,
I did already seek the input from the water supervisor and our utility billing supervisor. I also sent the form to the administrator and law director.
well, not
a
the
few weeks
form,
ago.
not the form, I meant the scenario that Patrick's speaking about where there's,
So
there's
the
a wide
water
open disconnect.
department did just complete a leak audit where they did find quite a bit of unaccounted for water. That's the technical term for that. So in the situation that the administrator just spoke about, it could be identified then, but that particular situation that I recall from a few years ago, it was the front yard was saturated. I think the house was being remodeled. So
Yeah.
that was a little bit different and totally separate from this process.
No, I understand that, but because he brought that point up, I just want to make sure we circle around at one point to address that.
Well, and I mean, I'm sure this forum will be flexible and like fluid. If there's suggestions like that that need to be added, if there's, a line that can be added to clarify for that scenario, I mean, that's be a good addition, right? I mean,
Mr. Chair, in the review matrix, a lot of experience in this myself. I'm just trying to wonder how you determine the percentages. It's not the percentage that's the problem. It's determining whether it went into a ditch or whether it went into a storm sewer that was connected, or whether somebody had a yard drain in their yard, or whether or not you have a very shallow leaking sanitary lateral, it's clay. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not, somebody will make this call, right? And there will be times where they're wrong, and there are times when they'll be right. But I don't know how that gets determined between the $10,000 gallon sewer credit and the percentage at fault, or the percentage default. It just seems like you'd have one amount that you would credit regardless, so that you wouldn't put staff or anybody in the position of having to determine what percentage of likelihood you thought it was caused or went somewhere other than the sanitary. It's all, this is a suggestion.
You
Well,
would think
like-
that you'd have to have someone inspect it, though.
But-
I mean, if someone comes in with a leak adjustment form, I would assume if we're going to make that adjustment, we're going to have proof that, one, the leak even existed and how it was caused, where it went, and
You never have proof. You very rarely have proof of where it went unless it's a toilet or a sink, like the finance director just suggested. But yeah, let's say it goes into your crawl space. and you're at a crawl space and the water's leaking. We can't tell, some of our reports, we can't verify whether they're actually footer tile around a crawl space. Some we have, some we don't. And let's say the footer had stone underneath the footer when it was put in, which means water will follow that footer until it gets to a trench, which is typically around a sanitary sewer pipe, out to that trench and ends up in those cracks. That's where I think it becomes squirrely. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't grant the credit. It just, I wouldn't put staff in the position of having to prove that it didn't go into sanitary, or it did go into sanitary. Oh, the ones that are clear is what the finance director just said. Toilet, it went through the toilet, went into the sanitary. The ones that are less clear, once you get past the meter into a crawl and water is leaking into the crawl space or even a basement, unless you have a verified storm drain or floor drain that goes into the sanitary, and we know that, that's easy to determine too. But you won't know on areas we don't know have footers.
Yeah, that is correct, and we did have that conversation,
Yeah.
even with the sewer inspections, the sewer lateral inspections. If the lateral is in good shape, then it's not getting into the, not seeping into the lateral that way and into the system. And that's why I provided that sort of middle tier, trying to be conscious of staff time to prove or unprove or disprove if it went into the system or not, and then a cap. I think even it's only 10,000 gallons, I think it would go a long way for goodwill with residents and a minimal financial impact. And as I said before, we really only have a handful of these
Right.
that would apply every year.
Well, and I mean, for some reason, the word approve, or the word prove kind of doesn't seem right for me. Like, it's more like they're going to go out and assess whether they think it might have gone in or not. I mean, we're not going to state a report with a whole long list. That's not being mindful of staff time, it doesn't seem like. But it's providing a process to at least give people in black and white kind of the steps that are being taken, and discussions on how they go out and do this. I mean, it seems like that's just something that's likely just a part of their normal job duties. I mean, they know how to go out and look for things like that, and they know some of the things that you were talking about to know whether it might have or not have. But I was just looking at the city of Oakwoods and, examples of adjustments that may qualify for a sewer credit: an underground service leak between the meter pit and the point where the service line enters the structure, or a leak in a pipe that is located in a slab or crawl space. Like, those are some of the examples that they gave. Too, like, in addition, I mean, so like I said a little earlier, like, I feel like there's always some adjustments that can be made to this. And we should definitely keep looking at it, but I'm just thankful that we at least have something
Sure.
for the residents to be able to see,
I like it.
kind of feel like there's some steps to go through, and there's some parameters. And I mean, there's always room for improvement once you get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. As situations come up, we can certainly revise the process of the form.
So I guess the biggest thing is just making sure staff knows, when they're going out and doing this, that if they have any suggestions, it's important for them to kind of pass that along so adjustments can be made on the form.
So I'd make a motion, unless there's more discussion here, to recommend to council the leak adjustment request form.
I actually
Would
have,
we
Sorry.
need to have an ordinance made just to really
Yeah.
define what leak means?
that's what I was going to ask, because there is ordinance 6322 that authorized the administrator and myself to set policy for utility billing.
Yeah.
So I think that falls under this already, but I just wanted council to be aware of it. Do you agree?
Agreed.
Okay.
Agreed.
So we don't need a,
Okay.
I don't
That
think
way, if
any-
it needs to be tweaked in the future, you can simply talk to the finance director or the new administrator is and figure out whether it makes sense policy-wise.
so we do or we do not need a motion?
It sounds like we don't need a
Okay.
motion. It's just, we wanted to have a discussion about it, and be able to put it in front of us and see it and give any thoughts or additions to that. Okay. So that's our leak form. Thank you for that. I think that'll be a good tool to have moving forward. And then Next item on the agenda is review of Chapter 103. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so I think this had, like, we wanted to look at kind of competitive bidding, change order stuff. So I guess does anyone want to start us off on this discussion, or?
No, go ahead, please. You can begin it.
Okay. Let's see. Jennifer, did you have any additions or thoughts? I know I'd written some notes too.
So I have recommendations for Chapter 103 in total.
Okay.
And I have those if you guys want. And
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at 103. Don't they kind
Okay.
of
And then I
overlap?
did draft up the change order, a proposal to change the section regarding change orders as far as authorities and dollar amounts and definitions. And that's just this little paragraph here. I apologize, I didn't get that to everybody earlier. I just worked on it last night. But I think it's reasonable, I think it's fair, and I think it covers everybody that could be impacted. That's the change, that's 103.
Is now getting it?
Did you want me to, did everybody have a chance to read it, or?
So I was just reading it
Okay.
now, yeah. Or, I mean, you can go through and read it if you want, that works best, and whatever you want to.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It defines what a change order is. It's an amendment to a previously agreed contract related to a capital project, resulting in increase of scope of work, cost, and/or timeline. And for the purposes of this section, we're considering a change order to also be a field order, one and the same. Essentially, the dollar amount and the authorization is what I'm concerned about. Capital projects then is defined major land improvements, road reconstruction, utility infrastructure, et cetera. My recommendation, and again, I apologize, this is very last minute, I just gave it to Matt, Capital Projects Manager, this morning. He and I spoke about it last week, about the authority, so, and about the process and the definitions. Anyhow, so my recommendation here is the administrator, mayor, capital projects manager, or public service director may approve a change order by written acknowledgement. So that means it needs to be signed, as prescribed in 10305 for all change orders in excess of the amounts described in 10304, which is on the proposed changes that you're looking at right now. It is equal to the competitive bidding amount that the Ohio Revised Code recommends, which is $77,250 this year. And my recommendation is the contractor may not commence until fully authorized and signed, and then the signed change order must be attached to the change order request in the finance system, and all change orders must comply with the purchasing policy.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't feel like there's any need to apologize because this was purely put on here for us to start the discussion. Like, we're not planning on recommending to council. This is starting the discussion of some changes that can happen in 103. And Phil, you're here. I mean, that was essentially the intent, right? To kind of start the discussion to see any, changes that might need made. I think that partly what came out of the last meeting. So we can take some time to look through some of these if you guys like, and we can talk about it.
Absolutely. There's
Yeah.
a lot here. I appreciate we're just going to have a glance at this today and not make any recommendations.
Yeah, I mean, like,
7 pages of information to go through, and has to be filtered through our law director, has to be done properly.
Mr. Chair.
Sure.
A lot of these
Excuse
changes.
me, I did send that to the law director on June 17th, just for the record.
Well, I've seen these changes
Thank you.
before, too. Some of them are a little bit different, but, and a lot of them are appropriate changes. On the change order proposal, though, I think just think about this, and having discussed this with our capital projects manager, is that to define a field order and a change order as essentially being the same thing is a little bit different in how construction actually works. When you're talking about increase in scope, understand, field orders should be approved appropriately. You're talking about timeline, understand, because that always comes to council. If you're talking about cost, that could take into account unit pricing. So if there's quantity increases in the field, for instance, if somebody's paving Dudley Street, and the Crown, in order to get over, when they're paving that day, we realize that we've got a problem with the Crown, and we adjust the Crown higher, that means your quantities in asphalt, your cubic yards of asphalt is going to go up. You couldn't stop the paver. That's when you would need to do a field order, that you would not be able to go through that process. Just keep that in mind in the future, because
So
we're
I-
going to stop projects.
So I did well, there's a dollar amount. I mean, quantities, maybe not fall under the 77,000. But I'm not going to know if,
Sure.
when a change order comes in, if it's a change order or a field order. And that's just another item that I have to keep track of, that the
Sure.
project manager has to keep track of. And that's why I assigned a dollar amount also, rather than a percentage, for the same reason, to keep track of.
Well, I appreciate seeing, because I always thought it was odd that we had this amount in here and we didn't, we've been updating so many things to reference ORC. So I appreciate seeing, that there is an amount, but then there's also like a future kind of steps, like 3%, increase thereafter per ORC. So then it's keeping with that to make sure that ordinances are staying updated. That's something that, Alan, when you've been cleaning up things, you've been making it a point to kind of refer back to ORC to make sure that we aren't constantly having to go back and make updates and they can follow Ohio, the state, right?
Generally, we have a charter, so we generally don't follow the revised code.
Okay.
Most of these things, so we can set our own parameters for any of these things.
Okay.
You can set your own percentage increases if you want to say 5% per year, 10% per year, because as costs go up, these numbers, 75,000 isn't a whole lot of money anymore for, specific projects that are going on.
Right, but
So-
in the past, we have made it a point, I mean, since I've been on council, there's been a lot of cleaning up, and the reasoning I've been giving is, changing things to the ORC, so it reflects to that, and we don't have to keep going back and changing it, but it essentially kind of updates on its own. So I guess how were those different than this?
Well, I think this is reflective, the original amount was reflective of a change in the revised code, but.
We just didn't put that in
based on
there.
the Revised code.
Yeah, competitive bidding is the same here, and that's not of issue here. Competitive bidding, which is what you were just talking about, Chairwoman, when you get to the section of change order that the finance director changed in F, that is not per ORC. It's something that's reduced from what it currently is, which makes sense. Change order authority from a percentage based on how large the contract is. That's not per ORC, which is fine, and that's what your law director was just explaining. So not everything here would refer back to ORC. You have a charter.
Yeah.
But it makes
Yeah.
sense. It reduces it and makes sense.
In this particular situation, obviously, the state handles billions of dollars of capital projects. So I feel like they've already done the research for us, and that's actually why they put in the 3% annual increase. The state ORC never allowed for a 3% increase. It was a flat amount for years and years and years. I think it was like 25,000, then 50,000, then it changed to 75,000, and then the most recent update is with the 3% annual increase every year, so.
I have a question. A lot of this is boilerplate language that we've done, and repeating it in the ordinance. What are the major effects on how jobs are put forward, how jobs are authorized? What changes are there as far as authority? I was looking under the purchase and supplies. I imagine that didn't change because that's not in red. The director of finance shall have charge and responsibility for the purchases and sales and shall keep a record therefore, and shall make all purchases of estates and of materials supplied for the city in conformity rather with the charter. What's changing in that respect? Or is it not?
It just, in red is the only thing that's changing, so everything else is existing.
Okay. Alrighty.
Well, then, I guess my question, I like these ordinances, I don't have it memorized. So ordinance 13, 2022, 21, 2022, 61, 2022.
Yeah.
Like, so it's changes in here kind of impact those ordinances. So is that like noting that those will also kind of need updated if this is updated? Is that?
I just added those because those were also amendments to this section.
And they're in
Okay.
red, right?
Yeah.
Yes, they are in red.
And Councilman Barrow, just to point out, the change order proposal that I worked on this was done, the entirety, this was done prior. This is done like 2 months ago, the entire change order. So I did mention in here that we would need to revise the authorities that are in Chapter 103 to get to,
Which number is that, Jennifer?
I think it's F, 10305F.
Okay.
It says the mayor, in this that I worked on a couple months ago, it says the mayor or city administrator is authorized, whereas the proposal that I worked on this weekend authorizes the capital projects manager or the public service director, and that is to expedite change orders and to expedite the process.
Thank you.
It adds those. It says administrator, mayor, capital projects manager, or public service director, so it adds.
It's adding those two
It's adding two
positions.
positions.
Yeah.
Because quite frankly, some field orders, there's no way I can be out in the field if it has to be
Oh,
changed
understand.
by somebody out there. They're doing it right now.
What I hope to accomplish too is that the projects will be looked at more comprehensively, so we don't have substantial change orders. I understand things happen. Maybe our infrastructure isn't properly mapped out, but I feel like there's some flexibility in limiting that dollar amount to 77, or providing that gap essentially from 0 to 77,000.
Again, for budgeting purposes, anything more than that.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so since we are kind of starting the discussion here, and, there's no intent to kind of recommend this to council
Right.
yet, do we at least want to develop some sort of timeline or kind of next steps? Maybe finance should plan on meeting again and having more time to look at it and discuss, and then plan on it coming to a finance committee meeting that's scheduled here in the near future, to then potentially make recommendations.
Yeah,
The council?
I would ask Alan what type of time frame is reasonable for you to do the research and look at everything that has to be, excuse me.
Just whenever you
Reviewed.
tell me you want to meet again, I'll have something.
You have it
okay.
ready? So then our time too as well, to make
Yeah,
sure we
yeah,
can
sure.
kind of look into
Let's say at
it.
least 30 days or so. That way
Okay.
we can have it, and I'd like to review it before we.
Yeah, sure,
we can
no.
Fully understand it.
Right.
So we can discuss it intelligently.
Okay. No, I didn't want to leave with it hanging in the air. So if we're thinking like 30 days, does that seem reasonable? 30 days?
Me, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so we will plan on item, chapter 103, looking at the, suggestions that the finance director has provided to us, and plan on doing a finance meeting in 30 days to discuss and possibly recommend to council then. Okay, and then, so the final item I just added at the beginning of the meeting was the June report overview. Now, I did get a note, and I forgot, I saw these emails coming through, so I guess I'm gonna kind of direct this to you, Gabe, because I'm kind of confused, to be quite honest. So there was no through emails going back and forth about the enterprise, and Jennifer provided us with all the numbers here. I guess I just want clarification on like, what you want to talk about, Gabe. I feel like I saw, like, in the notes that we did indeed pass it at the meeting, the last meeting. So is this something that we need to discuss in this meeting? I guess I
No.
wanted to ask you.
No.
No, you just wanted a report
I
to go
wanted
through
a
the numbers? Okay.
report. I wanted a report so I could see the
Okay.
claimed savings, and I have that now, so I need a report.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
your deadline of the finance committee meeting was just so you had it by then to kind of look at, not because we needed to discuss it here?
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Is
Thanks
this
for asking.
included on the agenda tonight? Because it is costing additional money every single month that this goes by.
So we approved it last meeting. I mean, I was looking back through the notes that
done.
Casey sent the other day, and it says,
Yeah, it was
Mr.
approved.
Yeah, Mr. Barrow moved to approve consent calendar, and this was on the consent calendar, item B.
Okay.
It's already-
Yeah, so we are good too. We are good to go.
Okay, so those contracts will be coming through DocuSign, Patrick,
Okay,
okay?
got it.
Okay. So that's next steps, is that what you're saying?
Yes, but
Yeah, when they
it's
For you to
I'll
sign?
sign 'em.
Okay, okay, perfect. All right, thank you. So then June report overview, if you wanted to kind of
Sure.
go through, so she sent, which, for everyone in the audience, our finance report, it's on the website, right, you had said?
Yeah, I didn't check to see if June is yet, but.
Okay, yeah,
It is.
it will be soon if not.
Donna say it is, okay.
Donna saying yes.
Yes, Donna says yes, so it's on the website. Thank you, Donna.
I saw it there.
And then the May report too, there was like a login, which there shouldn't be a login. So I did ask Travis to fix that too, so.
Okay. People had to log in to see it? Is that what?
Yeah, but the previous month's was available, so I'm not sure what was done there, but
Okay.
it should be fixed.
Okay.
So, I don't have a whole lot, other than income tax collection is up year-to-date, 388,000. Take that with a grain of salt, though, because July's not up, so it all works out. But that could be timing, too, because we are having more and more entities sign up with Ohio to remit their taxes, so then it's always a timing issue there. But just really a couple of things with the page 2, the general fund. The general fund and income tax A fund, those are, I really look at them as one fund. So for example, if you see the general fund revenue down 233,000, and then income tax revenue up 107,000. Remember, the general fund is substantially supported by income tax A. So that just means we haven't transferred money from income tax A into the general fund. So there's nothing alarming there. And then I just want to point out the theater too. So I think it's a really great depiction of the increase in revenue since the city took that over, and the manager, Sarah, over there is doing an amazing job. So revenue has gone up. Expenditures have increased too, but not at the same rate that the revenues have increased. So I think she's doing a great job. That's on page 12 for the theater.
Yeah, I saw, like, I circled that intersection point, like, none of the other charts seem to have
Yeah.
that, like, between 2023 and 2024, where then the revenue went above the expenditures.
Yeah.
So I thought that was awesome. It's like, I felt like the energy has been up over there, like,
Yeah.
getting more variety of events and things like that. So it's nice to see that the numbers are also reflecting what I feel like is kind of like the energy and vibe. I know my daughter just went out there last night to see a movie with her friends.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah, her goal, so Sarah's goal is to be completely solvent because there is some income tax support provided for that gap. And then the water fund, which is page 13, so we should be at 50% for revenue, but it is the summer months, so we typically receive more revenue with the, obviously, people out with their garden and
watering.
et cetera, yeah. I'm not concerned there. And then the sewer fund, so we're at 51.82% of revenue, which is good. Then you see on that revenue area, this is page 14, there is an internal loan of 1.5 million. We will use that if we need that. It's coming from the B fund for income tax. So I don't believe that we will need it since some capital projects will be will be delayed a little bit and likely moved to 26, so. But that's
Okay.
all I really had.
Thanks. We've done it in the past at meetings, and when I was looking through it this past week after you'd sent it, I just thought it'd be nice for us to kind of get some thoughts with it.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Aside from
information there, so if anybody has any additional questions, let me know.
Okay. All right, well, that was all I had. Is there any other updates necessary?
Nope.
No? No? All right, cool. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I second that. Excuse me. I second that.
Barrow,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Huffenberger.
Yes. Thanks.
All
I
right.
never remember to say call it.